Hello, and as I have promised, I'm going to give you this final lecture on the last topics that we have in transportation, which includes, of course, maritime law. For the last few meetings, we have discussed the common carriers. Of course, we talked about the level of diligence required, the accountability of common carriers as opposed to private carriers. And I have mentioned in one of my lectures, I believe that in maritime law, it is treated separately, although the basic principles are of course the same, but there are more technicalities in maritime law. So, what is maritime law? It is a system of laws which particularly relates to the affairs and business of the sea, of ships, to their crews, and navigation, as well as marine conveyances. Remember that when we defined what the common carriers is, one of the modes by which we can transport passengers as well as goods is through sea, and therefore maritime law also covers this particular area. Okay, so what is a vessel? It is any kind, class, or type of craft or artificial contrivance which is capable of floating in water, capable of being used as a means of water transport for carriage of passenger or cargo, or both, and capable of utilizing its own motive power or that of another. Now, okay, take note that maritime transactions are real transactions, so it's like when we transact over real property, so it is effective against third persons, which can be done through registering that particular transaction. So that is one difference between maritime transactions and that of the usual or ordinary transactions. So it's like real property. Another is it is hypothecary in nature, meaning that the liability of the carrier in connection is confined to the vessel, okay, and the vessel actually stands as the guarantee for their settlement. Okay, now because of this, when we talk about the limited liability rule, the exclusively real and hypothecary nature of maritime law operates to limit the liability of the ship owner to the value of the vessel, the earned freightage, and the proceeds of insurance if it is insured. Okay. And when is it applicable? The limited liability rule. First, in civil liability for indemnities in favor of third persons which arise from the conduct of the captain in the case of the goods. And then also on civil liability arising from collisions. Okay. And finally, for the unpaid wages of the captain and the crew if the vessel and its cargo are totally lost by reason of capture or shipwreck. Okay, when we say capture, let's say off the coast of Somalia. So dumaan siya and then na-capture ng pirates. So maybe that is one instance. Or of course, shipwreck. Now, what are the exceptions to the limited liability rule under maritime law? Injury to or death of a passenger is due either to the fault of the ship owner or to the concurring negligence of ship owner and the captain. Also, if the vessel is actually insured, so the insurance will cover that. And for workman's compensation claim, because there is a separate coverage also for our laborers or for our workers. And then, if the presumption of negligence was not overcome. Okay. Now, another thing that you should remember about maritime law is the concept of abandonment. When is there abandonment? The ship owner or agent may exempt themselves from liability by abandoning the vessel with all her equipment and the freight it may have earned. Okay, so you can just imagine if that is the case. So if the vessel is insured, the abandonment will cover the insurance proceeds, while the vessel itself shall be abandoned in favor of the insurer. So the insurer will get the vessel or the value of the vessel. That would be some sort of collateral. And then of course, how do we look at it, no? How do we explain this particular type of liability in relation to maritime law? Okay, so in one of the cases, and take note of this because this will be also part of your exam, no? In the case of Yanko versus Lacerna, it was held that the liability of a ship owner is limited to the value of the vessel or to the insurance thereon. Okay, so for instance, in this case, there was the total loss of the vessel. The insurance answers for the damages that a ship owner or agent may be held liable for by reason of the death of its passengers. Okay, so in this case, it was explained that the limited liability doctrine applies not only to the goods but also in all cases like death or injury to passengers if the ship owner or agent may properly be held liable for the negligent or illicit acts of the captain. Okay. In this case, there was also this discussion on what abandonment is under the Code of Commerce. Take note that for maritime transactions, no, we not only use the Civil Code, of course, and the Carriage of Goods by Sea Act. We also consider the Code of Commerce. Okay, and a ship owner is different from the ship agent, no? The parties here are different in the same way that, let's say, when we talk about carriage of goods, and we're talking about a vessel, no, or cargo rather, no. When we talk about cargo, we said that we have the shipper, and then we have the consignee, who may be a different individual than the shipper. So there are multi parties here. So let's say in a particular vessel, the owner of the vessel is not necessarily the agent, and then napasok din dyan yung liability, of course, of the captain. Okay, now let's talk about abandonment, no? In Philippine American General Insurance versus Court of Appeals, take note of this case. Now, it was stated that the ship's liability can be limited through abandonment of the vessel, its equipment, and freightage as provided in Article 587 of the Code of Commerce. Okay, but there are exceptions to this rule, of course, and the ship agent can still be held answerable despite the abandonment if the loss of injury or the loss, no, of life or cargo or injury was due to the fault of the ship owner and the captain. Remember one of the cases wherein the captain, no, was actually playing mahjong, or for instance, if even with the warning from the Coast Guard or something, then the ship captain still continued to voyage, no, to continue with the voyage, and because of that, there was a collision due to the bad weather. Okay, so you can think of other instances when the ship captain or the ship owner himself or itself, no, in the case of company, may still be held liable. Okay, and what else? Okay, so during the last meeting, we also talked about the charter parties, and to reiterate, no, what are the two types of charter parties? First is the contract of affreightment, and then the second is the charter by demise or bareboat. So contract of affreightment is the use of the shipping space leased by the owner in part as a whole to carry the goods for others. So it can be either time charter or voyage charter. As explained before, time charter is the lease for a fixed period of time. So let's say for 1 month, then that is a time charter contract of affreightment. And then on the other hand, if it's a voyage charter, it is for a single voyage. It doesn't matter how long it will take, but from point A to point B. So let's say from Manila to Cebu. So even if it takes only 3 days or 1 day, or even maybe not even half a day, it doesn't matter. But it is the voyage which matters. That is a voyage contract of affreightment. And then finally, we have the charter by demise or bareboat. So the whole vessel is let, no, or rented out to the charterer, which transfers to him the entire command and possession and control over the navigation, including the master of the vessel as well as the crew of the vessel. So last time I also differentiated between the two, no? So in terms of liability, in a bareboat charter, who becomes liable? The charterer, okay? Even if others cause, no, the injury or loss through its negligence. But in an affreightment, no, the owner remains liable as carrier and must answer for any breach of contract because nirerentahan lang sa kanya. Okay? And then, as to ownership, in a bareboat charter, the charterer becomes the owner of the vessel, pro hac vice, okay, meaning for that purpose. And then, as to the owner, no, in a contract of affreightment, the charterer is not regarded as the owner. It is still the ship owner who actually owns the ship. As to possession and command of the vessel, bareboat, the owner relinquishes the possession, command, and navigation to the charterer. So parang nire-relinquish niya muna, binibigay niya muna doon. So bahala lahat, navigation, anong ruta ang gagamitin, saan pupunta, paano ang gagawin dun sa boat. But in a contract of affreightment, the ship owner retains the possession, command, and navigation of the ship. Take note, when we talk about possession and control, no, this is where actual liability hinges on. Remember, kunwari, kahit sa sasakyan natin, di ba, it is the registered owner who becomes liable in case the vehicle, no, figures in a collision or injures passenger or injure someone else, a third party, or maybe even damages property. Kaya ganun din sa vessel, no? At least in a contract of affreightment. But in bareboat, pag bareboat charter mo siya, then the charterer becomes liable because he has possession as well as control of the vessel. And then as to whether or not you can be converted into a private carrier, no, if you have this particular type of charter. The common carrier is converted to a private carrier in case of a bareboat or demise charter. Okay, so hindi na mag-a-apply yung usual nag-a-apply natin for common carriers, but in a contract of affreightment, it retains its nature as a common carrier. Okay, it is not converted into a private carrier. Okay, so for there to be a valid charter party, of course the contracting parties must consent to it. Okay, like any other ordinary contract, but this time there must be an existing vessel which should be placed at the disposition of the shipper, and then there must be the freight or the cargo, and there must be compliance with Article 652 of the Code of Commerce. Okay. Now, let's talk about several principles, no, or concepts in maritime law in relation to this. So we have demurrage, D-E-M-U-R-R-A-G-E. So it is the sum of money due by express contract for the detention of the vessel in loading or unloading beyond the time allowed for that purpose in the charter party. Okay. So dead freight, on the other hand, is the amount paid by or recoverable from a charterer of a ship for the portion of the ship's capacity the latter contracted but failed to occupy. And then finally, we have primage, which is a bonus to be paid to the captain after the successful voyage. So, puro kaperahan itong mga to. So, what is again is demurrage. So, the sum of money due by express contract for the detention of the vessel in loading or unloading beyond the time allowed for that purpose in the charter party. So, let's say, sabi dun sa contract is ito yung time para mag-load. Okay? Meron kang 1 week to load all of your cargo. However, sumobra ka doon. Okay? Isang buwan na, nasa iyo pa. Now, by express provision of the contract, then, magbabayad ng demurrage. Okay? Or demurrage, whichever you want to pronounce it. And then, finally, we have, of course, yung dead freight. So, it is the amount paid by or recoverable from a charter of a ship for the portion of the ship's capacity the latter contracted but failed to occupy. Let's say the ship can carry, let's say, let's talk about tons. No, I hate tonnage. Let's talk about container vans. No, yung container, shipping container. So if the vessel, let's say, has 100, capacity of 100 shipping containers. Okay? But hindi yun napuno. Okay? Pero yun supposedly, yung kinontrata mo, na pupunuin mo yun, lahat no 100 na yon na shipping containers, then ang tawag doon is dead freight. So magbabayad ka for that. Okay? It can be recovered from a charterer of a ship, no, for the portion of the ship's capacity that it failed to occupy. And then, yung primage, bonus yon kasi naging successful yung voyage. It is paid to the captain of the vessel. Okay. Now, what are considered as fortuitous events or cases when we talk about vessels, no, or ships? So, of course, war or interdiction of commerce. Nagyera na. So, galing ka, let's say, from Panama. Tapos, pupunta ka, let's say, ng China. Kaso, nag-declare ng war ang China against, let's say, the US or whatever. And then, Panama is an ally of the US. So, China would not now want to receive your cargo. Okay? So, it can be the state of war itself because Panama is an ally of the US, or it can be the interdiction of commerce because of the hostile, because Panama is now considered as a hostile nation. Okay? Now, inability of the vessel to navigate. Ang ruta is, let's say, from Canada, iikot ng North Pole, dadaan sa may gawin ng maraming icebergs. Huwag namang maging Titanic, pero because the vessel, no, was stuck in between, let's say, a few icebergs, then it can no longer navigate. So, it can be considered as a fortuitous event in case there's now some substantial delay in the delivery of the goods. Now, prohibition to receive cargo, similar doon sa example ko kanina. So, hindi pina-receive yung cargo na dala-dala ng vessel. Or there is an embargo. What is an embargo? A trade embargo is when, let's say, a country, as a means of controlling, or a part of its foreign relations, stops trading with another country. So, hindi naman necessarily may giyera, hindi naman necessarily, hindi naman sa hostile relationship, but it's part of, let's say, its foreign relations policy so that the other party will give in to its demands. Usually, that is the reason why a country would put another country in an embargo. So, hindi rin i-receive, diba, yung goods because the origin of the goods would be that subject country. A good example would be, let's say, Cuba and the United States of America. So, since the time of President John F. Kennedy, there had been a trade embargo placed by the USA against Cuba. So, medyo lately, nalilift na yung ibang items, but there are still certain import items or imported goods which from Cuba, which the USA has still placed on an embargo. So an embargo is a policy, usually employed by countries as a retaliation against the other. And then of course blockade, similar to an embargo, but this time even, let's say, not just the ships, etc., but even planes can be covered, and totally hindi lang mga certain goods, or even not just certain goods, but also other types of materials, even of course people from that country, and especially if the ship is registered in that particular country, it can also be prohibited from coming in the territory of a particular country which has come up with the blockade. So these are fortuitous cases, and obviously it's because it is not within the control of the captain of the vessel, or the charterer, or the ship owner, or even the agent, na nagkaganon, diba? Na nagkaroon ng delay, o hindi pinapasok, or totally walang nangyari doon sa kaniyang cargo, or doon sa kaniyang voyage in the first place. Okay? So, last time we also talked about the bill of lading, and of course, the bill of lading is not just an evidence of the existence of the contract of carriage of the cargo, but also a commercial document, and therefore under our negotiable instruments law, it can also be transferred. So it's a negotiable instrument. So if you have that bill of lading, pwede mo ipambayad yon ng utang mo, kasi it serves as a receipt. It serves as a proof or evidence that you have this cargo with a certain amount, and that it can be used as a negotiable instrument. And then it is also receipt of the cargo. It also serves as a receipt of the cargo. Okay. So let's talk about the rights and the obligations of the parties to a charter. Of course, the ship owner or agent must not accept cargo from others if the vessel is wholly chartered. So, hindi siya pwedeng magsingit ng cargo ng iba, kasi fully ay nirentahan noong charterer. Okay. If that is not the case, then of course that is only a contract of affreightment, diba? Nagsakay ka lang. Pero kapag ikaw mismo yung nag-charter, and we're now talking about bareboat or demise charter, the ship owner or agent, kahit na nakita niya na marami pang pwedeng paglagyan, diba, doon, hindi niya pwedeng gawin. It will be a violation of the contract. Hindi siya pwedeng magsingit doon kasi bayad yon, or wholly chartered yon by the charterer. Okay? And it must also observe represented capacity, and it must unload cargo which are clandestinely placed. So kung mayroong nagsingit, dapat the ship owner or agent must stop that, and must unload it, first instance that it learns that it happened. And the ship owner or agent must also substitute another vessel if the load is less than 3/5 of the capacity. It can leave the port if the charterer does not bring the cargo within several days, within what is in the contract. And then it must place the vessel in a condition to navigate. So dapat seaworthy and everything, kompleto ng mga kailangan niya. And then the ship owner or agent must also bring the cargo to the nearest neutral port in case of war or blockade. So kapag nagkaroon ng fortuitous event of war or blockade, so hindi siya makapasok do sa intended port, it is the ship owner or agent's obligation to bring the cargo to the nearest neutral port. Okay, so kunwari, yun nga, Panama and then China. So bago nakarating ng China, neutral port pa Pilipinas, dalhin mo muna sa pier sa Pilipinas, so that the charterer can now do something, about the cargo, kung saan niya dadalhin o ano ang gagawin niya sa cargo, and mabawasan yung delay, no? Or let's say, especially if the goods are perishable, then it can be disposed of accordingly. Okay? Now, on the part of the charterer, of course, you must pay the agreed charter price. So, if you charter the vessel for, let's say, 500,000 pesos, you have to pay the full price. Then, you must also pay the freightage on the unboarded cargo. Babayaran mo pa rin yon kahit na hindi mo na ilagay. Okay? Because you are paying for the whole thing. And it must pay losses to others for the unloading uncontracted and illicit cargo. Okay? And the charterer must also wait if the vessel needs repairs. Hindi ka pwedeng magmadali kasi hindi magiging seaworthy yan kung ginagawa pa. Okay? And pay expenses, of course, for any deviation. Remember, in a bareboat or demise charter, no, especially, the control is with the charterer, and therefore, any deviation, it is assumed that it was with the consent of the charterer, and it was the charterer who controlled the route of the vessel. And the charterer also has the right to subcharter the particular vessel. Pwede naman yon kasi parang ikaw na nga yung owner of at least the for that particular charter. So yes, you can subcharter the vessel. Now, another important concept in maritime law is that of bottomry and respondentia. Okay, so what is bottomry? Usually you hear this as loan on bottomry. Actually, it is really a loan. So, when we say bottomry, it is a loan secured by the ship owner or the ship agent. Okay? And it is guaranteed by the vessel. Okay? And it is payable only upon arrival of vessel at the destination. Kasi dumating yung vessel. Now, respondentia, on the other hand, it is a loan secured by the owner of the cargo. So, the owner of the cargo, not the owner of the ship. Guaranteed by the cargo, so it's not the vessel which is used as a guarantee. Payable upon safe arrival of the cargo at the destination. So, that's the difference between the two based on the definition. One is, both are loans, but one is secured by whom? By the ship owner. While the other one is secured by the owner of the cargo. And then, one is guaranteed by the vessel, the other is guaranteed by the cargo, and then both are payable, but one is upon arrival of the vessel at the destination, while the other one is payable upon the safe arrival of the cargo at the destination. Now, why do we allow these loans? Because, of course, no, when you charter a ship, or even when you own a ship, basta yung ship, it is exposed to risk. There are so-called marine perils, okay, which includes what? Inclement weather, no, the risk of losing everything because of the sinking of the ship, or collision, no, maritime collision, etc. Okay, and take note that in both types of loans, the obligation of the debtor is only conditioned upon the safe arrival of either the vessel or of the cargo. Okay. And how do you execute this loan on bottomry or respondentia? Okay. It can be a public instrument, so notarized, or it can be a policy signed by the contracting parties and the broker, no, taking part. So, parang meron kang security broker, and then it can also be a private instrument between the parties. But the idea is, makakakuha ka ng loan, depende sa klase ng security mo, depende kung ikaw yung ship owner or yung cargo owner, and conditioned upon the arrival of either the vessel or of the cargo. Okay. Okay. Another interesting concept in maritime law is the so-called general average or general averages. Okay, so it includes all damages and expenses which are deliberately caused in order to save the vessel, its cargo, or both at the same time from real and known risk. Now, let us imagine this. Okay, we have this boat. There are lots of cargo. It doesn't matter whether it is a charter party, a charter contract or a contract of affreightment. But the point is, there's a vessel with its cargo, and then parang nag-Titanic, tumama sa iceberg. Okay, so what do you now do? Of course, diba, you have to try to save the vessel. Okay, you have to try to save the vessel. The passengers, of course, and the crew would have to be safe. But in cases like this, in maritime accidents, then you have to think on your feet. Paano ba to? Alin ba? Paano ko ba masasave to? May butas na yung hull ng vessel, diba? It is fast. The water is getting inside the vessel, so it can sink anytime. So how can we now reduce the damage, or how can we now save the vessel? So in general average, it includes all damages and expenses which are deliberately caused in order to save the vessel, its cargo, or both at the same time from real and known risk. So take note, real and known risk. Hindi yung gawa-gawa lang. Hindi yung haka-haka o kuro-kuro. Okay. So what are the requisites for the general average or general averages to be applied? First, there must be a common danger to the ship and to the cargo after the cargo had been loaded. Okay? Now, and in order to save the vessel or save most of the cargo, then either the vessel or the cargo or both is sacrificed deliberately. So it must be deliberate. Hindi ito yung natural cause or natural nung accident, if it was because of a maritime accident. Okay, and then there must be a successful saving of the vessel and the cargo, and expenses should have been incurred after taking legal steps and authority. Okay, so what are the formalities for the general average to be used? So there must be a resolution of the captain. The resolution must be entered in the captain's logbook, and this is what is nice about air travel and sea travel. They have this captain's logbook, especially in the sea, okay, or in ocean-going vessels. They have this logbook wherein the captain writes all his actions, so para siyang either on a per hour basis or whatever basis, so he logs in. And usually this is looked into whenever there are issues regarding collisions, or regarding, as in this case, whether or not the general average will apply. So tinitingnan yon, parang diary ni kapitan, kasi makikita doon tama ba ang ginawa niya. Okay, yung bang action niya at that particular moment, was it based on protocol, or was it something which shows that he was being diligent in his capacity as the master of the vessel. And then of course there must be a signature of all the present, and the detail of the jettisoned goods and the injuries caused to those on board. When we say jettison, tinapon. So, and as in my example, we have this ship, and then medyo ayun nga, nagkaroon ng konting collision with the iceberg. Hindi naman siya kagad nag-sink. However, nagkaroon ng damage sa hull, and as I've mentioned, medyo pumapasok na yung tubig. So, what do you do? In order for the vessel to continue its journey and for the vessel to be saved as well as most of the cargo, babawasan mo, diba? Tatanggalan mo yung mga ibang mong cargo para gumaan yung vessel, diba? And then, or kaya yung area wherein the hull was damaged or the portion, any damaged portion, and then tatanggalin mo yung mga ibang cargo doon so that you can do repairs or whatever. So whatever the captain decided to do, with, of course, with the knowledge of those present, in order to save the vessel. Okay, and the jettisoning of those goods, tinapon mo, diba, sa dagat, kasi para gumaan nga yung ship, para makasurvive siya dun sa kanyang na-meet na maritime accident, or makasurvive siya dun sa risk of sinking and possibly losing the entire crew, the passengers, the cargo, as well as the ship. So you will now you will now have to share on the damages and expenses caused by the deliberate sacrifice of all these jettisoned goods. Now, if there is a general average, there's also what is known as a particular average. But this time, kung sino lang yung nakinabang. To put it bluntly, that's the difference between the two. Dun sa isa, the idea is lahat nakinabang because of the sacrifice. So, para kung sino man yung mga may-ari ng goods na kailangan itapon will get some recompense. Okay? That's the idea of the general average. Okay? Kasi, kunwari, isang container ng goods, pag-aari ni A, yun ang kailangan itapon kasi nga yun yung mabigat, or kung ano man ang dahilan bakit siya ang kailangan itapon. So all the others who benefited from that sacrifice will now shoulder the expenses or the recompense or the compensation for A. Okay, that is the best illustration of why do we have this law on general average. And then we have particular average, which is if it did not inure to the benefit or the common profit of all the persons interested in the vessel as well as the cargo, then kung sino lang yung nakinabang, siya lang yung sasalo noong expenses and damages. Okay? Now, I've been using the term collisions rather loosely kanina, diba? Say colliding with an iceberg, colliding with another ship while in the Atlantic Ocean, blah blah blah. But collisions, actually is, at least in maritime law, it refers to the contact of two moving vessels. So, moving vessels. If one vessel is moving while the other is stationary or not moving, then it is known as allusion. So it's really a technical term. When we say collision in maritime law, it has a very specific meaning, unlike when we use the term collision in its ordinary sense, as I've been using earlier. But this time, let us use collision in the maritime sense. So collision, two moving vessels. So let's say this is the MV Don Juan and this is the MV Doña Elena. Both are moving and then they collided. That is a collision. Okay, so proper na gamitin yung term na collision. But if Don Juan is the one moving and Doña Elena is at port or whatever, and for whatever reason tinamaan siya ni MV Don Juan, then that is an allusion. Now, one important doctrine in relation to collisions or maritime collisions is this so-called doctrine of inscrutable fault. Okay, what is the doctrine of inscrutable fault? In maritime collisions, the vessel which is at fault shall indemnify the damages sustained or losses incurred, and if both vessels were at fault, each shall suffer its own damages, but both shall be solidarily liable to others. Okay? Because of this solidarity, it precludes a common carrier from interposing a defense of due diligence in the selection and supervision of its employees or of its captain and crew in the case of the ship, of course. So, kapag may collision, kunwari kanina si Doña Elena at saka si Don Juan, si MV Don Juan ang may kasalanan, then siya yung magbabayad, di ba? Okay? But if may kasalanan din si Doña Elena, MV Doña Elena, then they would both suffer their own damages. But kung sakali at let's say merong maliit na vessel na nadamay do sa kanilang collision, walang kasalanan, sabihin na natin kunwari na si MV Star, no? MV Star, si Star can now go after either Don Juan or Doña Elena or both, because the two would be solidarily liable to the third party MV Star. Okay, so take note of that, ha. Fault of one vessel, the owner of the vessel shall be liable. If both vessels are at fault, then they would suffer their own damages, but they will be jointly and solidarily be liable to owners of the cargoes, their respective cargoes, as well as to third parties, as in my example earlier. Okay, but what about if there's a fortuitous event? Then the vessels, no, which collided will just bear their own losses. Now, if the fault cannot be determined, hindi mo talaga malaman. So, each bears own loss, but both owners shall be solidarily liable to the owners of the cargoes. Okay? And if it is another vessel's fault, then the third vessel will be liable. So, kung kanina naman, kasalanan naman pala ni MV Star at hindi ni Doña Elena at hindi ni Don Juan, then in that instance, it would be MV Star which will be liable for all. And then, okay, what if there's a fortuitous event but the vessel was properly anchored and moored? So, kunwari, dadating na yung bagyo. So, nearest port, no? Port, hindi fort, ano ba yan? Port, the nearest port, nag-moor, no? Nag-anchor, inayos ni MV Don Juan. Okay? But, ito namang si Doña Elena, tumama pa rin. Okay? The vessel run into shall suffer its own damage or expense. Kasi nga, nung dumating yung bagyo, kahit na pareho naman sila na nakaayos, pero tumama pa din, then kung sino man yung malaki ang damage, kung sino man talaga nagka-damage, then that vessel would bear its own damage or expense. Now, and this is a bit very technical, no? Ito yung mga zones: first zone, second zone, third zone. Okay, when we're talking about collision, kung before dun sa mga doctrine of last clear chance natin, and I ask you now to illustrate the particular let's say areas or paano kailan nagkaroon natatama yung sasakyan. So ganun din sa maritime collision, may 3 zones. So the first zone is the time up to the moment when the risk of collision begins. Okay. First zone pa lang yun. Doon mo nakita, uy, okay, mukhang tatama, mukhang magko-collide. Then we have the second zone. Okay, this is the time between the moment when the risk of collision begins up to the moment it becomes a practical certainty. And then the third zone, ito yung pinakamalala, syempre, time when the collision is certain up to the time of the actual impact. Now, class, bakit kaya nating hatiin pagdating sa maritime collision? Obviously, unlike, let's say, in the case of vehicles, no? Ordinary vehicles, especially cars, etc., trucks, mabilis siya eh. So, hindi mo na makikita masyado, kaya karaniwan ginagamit natin is doctrine of last clear chance. Wala na wala na yung zoning wherein or maliit na, hindi mo na makita masyado kung nasan yung demarcation between the zones. But in maritime collision, you can do that. Why? Of course, you can check it in your radar, and even if mabilis naman talaga, no, yung mga ships, technically, mabagal pa rin siya kasi makikita mo, and because of their huge size, you have this idea that kung kailan nandun yung risk of collision. So, the time is a bit longer, no, compared when, let's say, we're talking about ordinary vehicles colliding. Okay? So, if a vessel having right of way suddenly changes its course, bigla siyang lumiko, hindi naman siya dapat doon, kunwari ang ruta niya dapat straight lang, bigla niya naisipan, kakanan ako ng konti, etc. Okay? Bakit na naisipan? Kasi it is to avoid an imminent collision due to the fault of another, kasi itong isa, dire-diretso lang siya, kahit nakita na niya may right of way itong isa. Such act is said to be done in extremis. So, that is the doctrine of error in extremis. So, it is used, no, in collisions, and it's like the doctrine of last clear chance. Okay. So, again, to illustrate, we have A and we have B. B has the right of way. Dapat dire-diretso siya. Nakita niya ngayon to. Hindi tumitinag. Para bang nakikipagtitigan pa. Okay, hindi siya tumitinag. So, ano gagawin ni B? Ang gagawin niya, bigla niyang iginan yan. Okay? Kasi para hindi siya mag-collide dito sa isa na ayaw umalis doon sa hindi naman siya dapat nakapwesto. Okay? And because of this, some damage was incurred, no, injury or sudden or whatever. Itong B, no, is considered to have done it in extremis, and pwede siyang lumusot. Okay? So, take note again of the case this time of Williams versus Yanko. Okay? So, here, I think the issue was lights. Okay? So, hindi nagkita. Siyempre, madilim sa dagat. Diba? And there was no proper lighting, etc. Okay? So, that is a usual cause of collision. No, if you are not, if the vessel is not properly lit, then too late, hindi na nga nakita. No, aside from, of course, some other natural reasons for collisions to happen. Let's say, may atoll or what, and then umiwas doon, hindi napansin kagad, tumama sa isa pa. So, whatever may be the reason for the collision. Okay? And also, reread the case of Macenas versus Court of Appeals. There's a discussion on that also. And si Mr. Majong, no, si Captain Santisteban na nagmajong. Okay. Now, there is also the concept of arrival under stress. So, what is this arrival under stress? Hindi yon yung port of destination, but the vessel, no, decides to go there, no, because it is the nearest and the most convenient port. No? And what would be the reason for the vessel doing that? No? Kasi in a way, it is a deviation. So, if there is lack of provisions, wala nang pagkain, or it has to refuel. Okay? So, well-founded fear of seizure, privateers, or pirates. Nandun nga, off the coast of Somalia, no? Bawal talagang magdaan doon. And then, pero namali, nagawi doon. Or the pirates, no? The Somalian pirates, magpasa sila doon sa usual nila na mga na area. Ayun. So, sa takot mo, lumihis ka na at pumunta ka sa nearest and most convenient port. Or, by reason of any accident of the sea, disabling it to navigate. In one of our examples, nagkaroon ng collision, no, or tumama sa iceberg or whatever. So, instead of going the full route, nearest and most convenient port in order for the vessel to be repaired, no, to avoid any further damage. Okay, now you cannot use this arrival under stress, no, as a justification for your deviation and for your not using the port of your destination if the lack of provisions was due to your own negligence. Okay, alam mo naman meron kang 20 na crew and then at ang voyage nyo will take about 30 days, tapos ang nila namang food is only for 5 people, diba? Or yung fuel no ship ay kulang, hindi talaga kakayanin, and you know for a fact, no, that you should have carried that amount of fuel. And then if the risk of the enemy, no, if your reason was supposedly for fear of seashore privateers or pirates, if it is not well known or manifest. Okay, and also if it was because of any mechanical failure, no, mechanical problems, if the defect of the vessel is due to improper repair made on it, nagtipid si ship owner or si ship agent. So nung nasa dry dock yung vessel, nung inaayos, dapat ilang days pa doon, nagmadali siya, hindi natapos lahat ng repair. So later on, no, kapag nag-arrival under stress siya, due to that reason, he cannot use that as a justification or explanation. And then if it was malice, no, negligence, or lack of foresight or skill of the captain which resulted in arriving under stress. So katangahan ni kapitan, kalokohan ni kapitan, or negligence ni kapitan. Okay, and that's why being a ship captain really has or carries a lot of responsibility. Okay. Now what happens to, let's say, cargo which had been a vessel rather, no, that had been abandoned? So we have what is known as the salvage law. So there is salvage if a person, no, or persons or entity picks up and conveys to a safe place a vessel or its cargo which are now beyond the control of the crew, or it was already abandoned by the captain and its crew. Then there can also be a contract or separate contract of salvage. Okay. Now, what would be the requisites for a valid salvage claim? First, there must be a marine peril. Then the vessel was shipwrecked beyond the control of the crew or already abandoned by the crew. So when you watch movies and then madidinig nyo, diba, abandoned ship, sinasabi nung kapitan, kasi nga ala na, diba? So it's no longer within their control. They can no longer navigate the ship. The ship was colliding with some barrier or some other ship, so they would have to abandon the ship literally now. Or the services must have been voluntarily rendered, and the salvage must be successful in whole or in part. So what would you salvage, no, if you are into salvaging a particular ship? So the ship itself may be salvaged, pero ito hindi mo magagawa ito kung mag-isa ka lang. Karaniwan yan companies or corporations na or entities. Or the jetsam. What is a jetsam? So flotsam and jetsam. Hindi lang yan po sa Little Mermaid yung flotsam and jetsam, kundi meron din siyang technical meaning. So we have the jetsam, the goods that were thrown off a ship which was in danger. Remember our discussion earlier on the jettison goods, kasi nga may butas na yung hull or part of the ship, so tinapon yung iba para mabawasan yung load. That is a jetsam. Kapag nakita mo na yan, no, na nagbobob sa sea, that is a jetsam. So it can be a subject of salvage. Now, okay, there's also the flotsam. So what is the flotsam? So the goods which float upon the sea, yun. So si jetsam yung actually yung tinapon. Pero pag dumating na siya dun sa tubig at nagpo-float na, flotsam na siya. So jetsam and flotsam. Okay. We learn new things every day. So, and then we have the lagan, or the goods cast into the sea, tied to a buoy so that they may be found again by the owners. So, pwede rin kasi yun, di ba? May mga buoy para mag-float at para makita pa sila. So, parang nakakabit siya doon para makita pa rin, masalvage ng owners. So, all of this can be subject of salvage. No? You are saving the ship. You are, or the jetsam, or the flotsam, or the lagan. Okay. Now, what is a derelict ship? A derelict ship is a ship or her cargo which is abandoned and deserted at sea by those who are in charge of it without any hope of recovering it or without any intention of returning to it. Now, one example of a derelict ship is, and check this out, no, i-google nyo, is the Mary Celeste. Okay. It was in the 1800s, I think. And they thought that the reason for this was paranormal. Pasensyahan nyo na ako, class, kasi I really read a lot, and there are things I should not know, but for whatever reason, I have read and now I know them. So, the Mary Celeste was a ship, and it had its captain, the captain's family, and the crew. It also had cargo. So, at that time, the ship carried what? Maybe textile, or maybe spices, or maybe some other goods. So, this was during the colonization of the United States by the British. So, what happened was, later on, it was found, no, the vessel, the boat was found intact. It was just floating and no one was in sight, and that's where the paranormal aspect is. So, up to now, no, supposedly, it is not known what happened to the entire crew because they were not there. And the table was laid out for dinner. None of their personal things was missing. The entire cargo was there, so it's like as if poof, nawala lang. Okay, so it's just a nice paranormal story, no, to relate to so-called derelict. So the Mary Celeste was a derelict at that time because it was abandoned, and of course none of the crew, the captain did not return. The entire family of the captain was gone. No, nothing. Okay, so when it was found later by another vessel, then you can call it a derelict. Okay, now when we talk about salvaging a ship, of course there must be some reward, but if you are part of the vessel's crew, then you are not entitled to a reward. Okay, now if the captain, no, or the representative of the captain opposed, no, your service to salvage the ship or its contents, and yet you continue to do so, you do not have any reward for that. Or, okay, if you do not deliver the salvage vessel or cargo to the collector of customs, hindi mo yun aarian when you salvage it, no, for you to get the reward. Okay, and this brings me, of course, to again, my overactive imagination, Castaway by whom? That movie, starring Tom Hanks. So, of course, the plane, the FedEx plane that he was on, because he was an employee of FedEx, so it ran into trouble, and he was stranded alone on a deserted island, and of course he stayed there for, I think, 4 years. So you could see the flotsam and jetsam there, all of the cargo of the plane, and of course you could just imagine that, but of course that was a plane, diba? hindi naman yon ship, hindi naman siya yung ship na nag-collide and then met its accident. But of course the plane would not have been salvaged anymore. But what about the cargo? So if you find something floating in the water, class, you are supposed to bring it to the collector of customs. If it's obvious that it is cargo from a ship which was either abandoned or a derelict ship or whatever, if you want to get the reward for the salvage, if you want to be considered as a salvage. Now, ano yung madalas na ginagawa ng karamihan pag nakakita ng ganun, ay hindi na dinadala kay collector of customs, kasi lalo na kung it's nothing naman, di ba? Kung mga maliliit na bagay lang na damage na, etc. So maybe you can find it floating there but it has no value anymore, so you don't bring it to the collector of customs anymore. Okay? Now,